Are you sure your iPad works? Okay, very good. Where's the DVR? Good afternoon, everyone. Are you ready? Not yet? Okay, I'll give you 1 minute. Let's allow him to come. Let him come in. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Put it this way, this here. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let me know when you are ready. You're good? Yeah? Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this press conference convened by the Minister of Interior National Administration with the representation of the National Police Service present and the ministry here present, represented by the PS and myself. On Wednesday of the 25th of June 2025, Kenya witnessed scenes of profound pain and violence in the name of the right to peaceful assembly. True peaceful protests, free of expression and picketing, are enshrined in our Constitution and specifically in Article 37. As the Cabinet Secretary responsible for your security, I address the nation today with heavy heart. Let me right from the outset express my deepest sympathy to every Kenyan who endured suffering during yesterday's protest. To the families of those who suffered harm, both members of public and security personnel who bore the brunt of violence, and those whose livelihoods were shattered, your needless pain is our collective sorrow. The suffering inflicted upon you remains a stain on our national conscience. What unfolded yesterday was not a protest. It was terrorism disguised as dissent. There was no peaceful demonstration. It was riots, chaos, and anarchy. Let me therefore state unequivocally that we condemn the criminal anarchists who, in the name of peaceful demonstrations, unleashed a wave of violence, looting, sexual assault, and destruction upon our people. More than 10 Kenyans were killed. Investigations are ongoing on the numbers and the circumstance that this happened. Over 400 were injured. Close to 300 are police officers. Some left with injuries they will carry for the rest of their lives. Key government installations and offices were targeted. At least 9 police stations were attacked, 5 of which were torched, including Dagoretti, Molo, and Olkalau, to name a few. 88 police vehicles were destroyed. A total of 27 national and county government vehicles were destroyed, and 65 civilian vehicles parked in various police stations, including a school bus, were burnt. The criminals were aiming at the officers on duty. They were after guns in the armories and the police uniforms. 5 firearms were stolen in Dagoretti Police Post, Kiambu County, while 4 were burnt at Kashui Police Post by the very criminals who hid behind the pretense of a peaceful protest. Government offices, including courts, national government and county governments offices, were looted and burnt. Businesses worth billions of shillings were massively looted. The criminals targeted kiosks, supermarkets, electronic shops, hotels, and restaurants, among others. I have just come this morning from inspecting some of the looted businesses in the bus station, OTC, Nyamakima, and it is very painful. I met young hustlers, older hustlers, women, young men, youth, and different cadre of business people who were actually shedding tears as they explained to us the suffering they have gone through, with the entire businesses being wiped. And most of these businessmen and businesswomen and youth, young business persons, were actually borrowed money from banks, and some of them from Shylocks, to just carry out their businesses. And now everything is looted and destroyed, and they have to start afresh. I need to note also that just like government infrastructure, business and residential premises were burnt, including the one owned by Catholic Church in Embu County. Critical infrastructure such as roads, railway, electricity, and water infrastructure were vandalized. Also of great concern to us, and as though it's pointed to the motive of the protests, is that the organizers targeted the homes and businesses of elected leaders who support government, including the homes and the business of the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, Molo MP Kimani Kuria, Mathira Member of Parliament Eric Wamumbi, Kieni Member of Parliament, whose home and supermarket was also targeted, Joroge Wainaina, MP of Mbere, whose business premises and home was also targeted, Engineer Bernard Muriuki, and Laikipia East MP Mwangi Kiunjuri, among others, including a number of MCAs. This was not just violence. It was an orchestrated campaign of terror, an assault on our people, our constitution, our institutions, our values, and the very soul of this republic. What was billed as a peaceful protest was in truth a calculated disguise, a coordinated descent into chaos masked as civic expression. Beneath the banner of democratic rights, we witnessed a well-orchestrated campaign of political violence. What happened was not spontaneous. It was not random. It was deliberate. It was coordinated. It was funded, and it was premeditated and politically instigated. The mobilized protesters, especially along Kiambu, it is time to take out power and occupy properties of politicians and civilians allied to government and innocent civilians who were of Nairobi, and watch the goons and to the recently promised, and were accompanied by law enforcement officers. This is what was envisaged in Article 37 of our Constitution. The Inspector General of Police, through the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, is carrying out investigations to apprehend and bring to justice the organizers and financiers and of this well-orchestrated campaign of violence. And I want Kenyans to rest assured that the government will pursue justice relentlessly on behalf of all the affected citizens. No person will be spared regardless of their political or financial status. I know it's been promised before that every time such violence is meted on citizens in the name of protesting, promises have been made before that criminals will be charged. I want to say, for avoidance of doubt, that the Inspector General of Police will follow the Constitution to the letter, and all these criminals will be arrested and investigated. I must say that sitting here in the command center yesterday, I managed to see some of those videos and cameras that have picked some of these criminals. And I have no doubt that we have enough evidence to make sure that these looters, including the financiers, including the vehicles that were bringing money in the name of protest, giving money to protesters in different corners of Nairobi, especially in Mwindibungu Street, I believe that those criminals will be arrested, they will be charged. Those who stole guns from Dagoretti police station, and those who torched police stations and people's houses, people's businesses, looted them, we are going to have to do a very massive mop-up so that we can be able to arrest them. But it is important to note that the wheels of justice don't only depend on the police. It's also important for us to appreciate that the judiciary have a very important responsibility to protect the citizens of this republic. More often than not, every time this situation happens, either these protesters are given very favorable bail terms, or sometimes they are even released on free bond. It is up to the judiciary to decide if they want a country of law and order or they want anarchy akin to what we saw yesterday. And as I said in my statement, recently, a section of church leaders and a section of diplomats went public and asked the Inspector General of Police not to stop anyone who wanted to come to town to protest. It is now clear that there was no protest, it was chaos, anarchy. Parliament was being targeted and State House was being targeted. Those who planned this chaos had a very premeditated plan. They shared that plan, including online, and the plan was to take the symbols of authority and democracy, our symbols of democracy in the Republic, which is Parliament and State House, to make sure that they show that they have achieved some sort of a regime change. So this is nothing to do with protests. This is nothing to do with freedom of expression. It was an unconstitutional attempt to change the regime of this republic. And this is therefore, yesterday what the police did to foil was they were able to foil an attempted coup. Our security agencies exercised remarkable restraint amid extreme provocation. I want to say this to the brave officers injured while protecting Kenyans' property, key installations, including Parliament, Judiciary, and State House, against rioters and no doubt hired thugs. We feel your pain and sacrifice that embody the truest expression of patriotism. It is now urgent for us as a nation. I just wanted to say before I read my last paragraph that I know that no church member, and I repeat, there will be no bishop, neither Catholic nor Anglican or any other church leader who will come public to defend the police. I know that for sure. Nobody will speak about how the police were attacked, injured, and suffered immense pain as a result of the various. Nobody will do so. I also know that no diplomat will come to public to defend our police because it is not in their interest for Kenya to be a safe nation. and to be a prospering country with full democracy, all those people would prefer anarchy, chaos, at the expense of peace. And since there's no one who is going to defend our police officers, I want to speak authoritatively here. I thank you, our police officer, for a job well done against the extreme provocation. And some police stations were attacked by thugs. And their mission was just to get the guns and police uniform. And I can see some of these boys on TikTok. They are wearing police uniform, calling themselves sergeants, and that they have taken over power. Make no mistake, we will come for you, and we will come hard. It doesn't matter the noisemakers, doesn't matter those who are calling us names. I will defend the police officers, or all the police officers who did a very good job yesterday. You have my full support, 100%. Even if you need a lawyer or you need anything, you have my back, and you have the back of this ministry, and I have your back actually, and I have your back, and the ministry has your back, and the government has your back. If you are a police officer and you are being threatened with some character saying that you committed any excesses, there is no police officer who committed any excess yesterday. Police officers foiled a coup, and they deserve our defense. They don't carry guns as toys. When you threaten a police officer, you want to kill them. When you target an armory in a police station, when you steal guns, when you ban guns, when you ban a police station, you want us to celebrate you and bring you a birthday cake. We must be serious as a country. And as long as I have this responsibility, a policy responsibility of speaking on behalf of our police officers, we must defend them, because it is now clear the coup plotters are not sleeping. And while they were going around campaigning against policemen for the last 3 weeks, their campaign was not a genuine campaign for the reform of police officers. They wanted to sufficiently scare us and scare the police officers so that they can have a free passage to commit the crimes that we saw yesterday. If it was not for the police officers, we would not be having this country today. We would not be sitting here to make statements. And therefore, our police officers have my full support, and I will defend them against all the orchestrated attacks that want to paint police officers as if they are lesser human beings and not daughters and sons of this republic. Therefore, it is urgent as a nation to put in place a legal framework that operationalizes Article 37 of the Constitution to ensure that demonstrations are carried out in an orderly manner. This entails providing sufficient information on the planners, purpose, day, time, and demonstrations routes, among other details, to enable the police to provide adequate security and to ensure that the demonstrations are not happening in areas that will inconvenience other Kenyans who do not want to take part, including traders and other business people. We urge all citizens to reject and denounce violence. We must deny criminals the chance to exploit legitimate grievances. We welcome dialogue with all stakeholders, including the youth, grassroots voices, traders and business leaders, civil society, and other religious groups to address systemic issues that affect Kenya. Kenya's strength lies in our unity. To those who seek chaos, our resolve to protect our motherland is unbreakable. To peaceful citizens, the government stands with you. I thank you. Thank you very much. I will take perhaps 3 questions. You introduce yourself, your name, and the station. Let me move 1, 2, and the third. 1, 2, 3. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Waziri. My name is Emmanuel Tom from Citizen TV. Just 2 questions. One, you mentioned that this was politically instigated. Do you have names that you're working with? Do you have the names that you think are the sponsors? And number 2, for the families that were affected,
families that lost their loved ones, cried to the government at City Mortuary. What are you going to do about it? Because they're saying that they don't trust the government anymore for justice.
Good afternoon. My name is Ian Keitani from K24. I have two questions. One, we saw situations, for example, in Eldoret where police officers allegedly were escorting goons who were attacking those who were protesting. And number two, just to emphasize on what was said, you mentioned coup plotters that were, those were exact words. Will you probably give us names? Thank you.
Yes, we're working with names, and I am sure you also know their names. We know that it is not my responsibility as a cabinet secretary to investigate any individual specifically. But of course, from the reports we get, you can see clearly who are the coup plotters. You can also see it from the pattern of the areas where the protests were violent and intense, that there was an outright misuse of people who would have been, so to speak, political supporters, turning them against the rest of the citizens to make sure that you reign chaos and terror. Particularly of great concern is in Nyeri, where the Member of Parliament of Mathira was specifically targeted, his home, and the Member of Parliament of Kieni. And this pattern has continued from last year. And now there has been a specific pattern of the coup plotters targeting certain political leaders whom they think they are not giving them political support. That is why you saw Kiunjuri's home, Kimani Ichung'wah is being targeted, and the Molo Member of Parliament. Just to, terrorists, how they operate is that they instill fear. And these are political terrorists. They would like to instill fear on members of parliament who don't support their political ideology so that they can get a safe passage. The DCI does not investigate politics. He will only deal with the criminals. And those criminals who will be caught, they invaded a police station, the shops, they provided financial support to criminals, paid them, ferried them. The matatus that were used to ferry them, some of the vehicles that were operating pretending to be ambulances, but they were ferrying goons, all of them are going to be ensured that they have been mopped up, and all those people be arrested and charged. And as I said, it is up to now the next stage, the DPP and the judiciary, to take the next stage. And as a country, it is not my duty to announce to you the names. You will see them when they appear before court, so that then the DCI can have an ample time to carry out its responsibility. But all those characters we know. This is not, let me say this, the problem we were facing yesterday is not about justice. It's not even justice about families who lost their loved ones. It's not even about genuine expression of views by citizens. It was just purely politics. And yesterday's game was political. But for people who are impatient to wait for the next elections, they think there is something they can do between now and next elections to get this administration out of office. They also think that because they are facing serious political upheavals, that orchestrating violence will help them negotiate a better passage from their current political challenges. So we know them, and Kenyans know them. And I have no doubt they will start running around the country with their propaganda, the usual. Oh, we are being targeted, our cousins are being targeted. It will not take long before you will see them making the noise. But let me tell them, they are not above the law. They are not above the law. And I have said this before. We will make sure that this country is protected. And we cannot be intimidated. And I just want to repeat that. And then, unfortunately, the people of Kenya, through Parliament, have not put aside budget for compensating those whose properties are destroyed and looted through such occasions. And we do not have budgetary allocation as a government to do so. And if we were to be providing budget that will compensate people all the time when their properties are looted at this point in time, then the best law would have been those who are protest organizers should be bearing greatest responsibility. That is why you heard me say it's important to have a law that will clearly define who are the organizers of the protest, where do they want to, what is the purpose of this protest, when do they want to have the protest, where will they start the protest, which route will it follow, and where will it end? And should there be anything that is, should these protesters loot people's properties, what will happen? It is also important to organize public protests in such a way that the police can then provide necessary escort. The reason why I cited Mombasa is because Mr. Ali Nuno, who is the regional police commander, was properly briefed. The protesters followed defined route in Mombasa. They started at 10, they finished at 12. There was a small group that wanted to cause chaos at some point, but it wasn't a serious one, and the protest was closed. That is an example of how public protest should be done, not the kind of mayhem and chaos that we witnessed in the city. And therefore, unfortunately, the government of Kenya does not have a budgetary allocation from Parliament that takes care of any form of compensation. That does not mean that the government of Kenya is not feeling the pain of the businesses. When I went to OTC today and the bus station, and all of us as a team when we went there, you saw, I met a lady who lost her husband 7 months ago, and she has loans. And she has, this business she's running was worth about, the capital required is about 200,000. Now, as a government, you would say, yes, we have no budget to do so. But all of us as well-wishers, other business people, even from government, even as leaders, to see the most vulnerable ones, what can you do to help them in such a difficult situation? I have also been asked by Daniel that there are people who do not trust the justice system. Unfortunately, this is our country. And that's why when we tell all the protesters that let's make protests peaceful, let's protect our nation, there is no other country. The same people who will say today, we don't trust our justice system, are the same people whom when we say we want to regulate protests, they will say, no, you cannot regulate our right. It's important that protests are regulated. And also important for us to trust our institutions. The DCI and the police here have done a fantastic job to unearth so many cases in the country. We have the capacity and the human resource to make sure that we investigate and arrest people. And that's why I'm saying we will arrest. We have arrested already some who were arrested yesterday. Some will be arrested today. Some will be arrested over the weekend. But we want to make sure that all those people who are prosecuted, there is enough evidence, and we want to request the judiciary to work with us and work with the police, National Police Service, to ensure that all those characters are brought to justice. On the question of some people being escorted by the police who are goons, we will be happy to receive also reports from citizens to record statements so that if there will be such incidences where there was infraction on any part of government officer, of course it will be investigated in the right manner. But by and large, yesterday was a great success in terms of the police work, even though the destruction that went all the way to almost midnight. All these goons who were brought all the way from Muranga, some of them were brought from Nyeri, some were brought from Kirinyaga, most of these goons were left in town. Some were left in Thika Road. And so as they were going back home, they caused immense havoc last night in Thika town, looting people's businesses, mugging people, robbing people. in Thika Town, and some on their way to Kajiado also caused a lot of havoc on their way. So, and the police were really overwhelmed because now they were doing some of this work in darkness, especially some who, on the onset of this darkness, they came back to the roads to try to rob motorists and other citizens. It has not been easy when such number of goons and criminals and thieves and thugs and robbers are concentrated in one area, collected by these politicians. It's not easy for the police officers to be able to maintain law and order. I think that we have given you sufficient, unless any last question, preferably from a lady. Yeah, there's a lady on the left there. Good afternoon.
My question would be from the Communications Authority about media houses broadcasting live protests. That was followed by a High Court order from Judge Chacha Mwita, who said that is unconstitutional per se. So what is your take about the live broadcast of protests and that directive by CA and that coming from the courts?
Last one. Let me give the gentleman. He was really struggling to catch my eye.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Kavani from the Standard Video. My question is simple. What is your message to the people who lost their loved ones during yesterday? Thank you.
Because you are the last one, let me just give you. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Mike from TV47. I just have one question. Perhaps how many police officers were injured yesterday? And do you think there is a ploy to attack police officers during these protests? Since the Kenyans have been furious about police officers in the past, are they safe during these protests?
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, let me, on the communication, on the live broadcasting, there is nothing wrong with live broadcast per se, because we also, our media enjoys freedom. We have the freedom of media in this country. The biggest problem with live broadcasting, having watched a number of them, media stations yesterday, is the idea that media becomes the center of mobilization for some of these protesters. In fact, most of the media houses are working very hard during the onset of protest, telling people, oh yeah, wengine wamekuja, sasa tayari ndio hawa. They interviewing people in the street and tell them, what do you tell those who are still at home? You see, they are participating, directly in mobilizing people to come. But what was even of greater concern to me is some of the media stations whose their job was directing the protesters. And they are saying, oh, now they are in Thika Road. As soon as they converge with the ones in Kiambu Road, the possibility is that they will pass through museum and State House will be very near. You see, that is really very irresponsible journalism. Of course, the gentleman from Standard knows that Standard now has stopped being a newspaper. The headlines for the last 2 months or 3 months have always been about security and insulting people without resorting at one instance to ask for feedback from anybody, not even any person. Now they have these interesting headlines that pass judgment on the Inspector General of Police, the Minister, the President. Of course, the President lives on their headline. I understand the desire and the tough economic times for newspapers to sell. But that cannot happen at the expense of our country. And this is really of great concern to me, that the media houses were expected to have self-regulation. Apart from, at the end of the day, even the media houses are doing business in Kenya. If this country bans, just because you wanted to sell newspapers, you wanted to do media engagement, it's a loss to everybody. And more importantly, let me say this, that it is unfortunate that political actors are relying on media, it's not becoming independent enough to give both sides of the story. For example, you will hear that yesterday's report is reported as the protesters have arrived somewhere and they are looting. And you are still saying the protesters have looted shops. The protesters have done this, and you can see they are criminals. Meaning that the characterization of also the criminals, we are not taking the greatest responsibility as citizens. You've watched international media, except of course when they are reporting from Africa, and Nairobi especially, that they are very careful. When they are reporting about Israel, about America, about UK, they are very careful about their own countries. But when they come to our country, report it as it is. And some of the reporters are so happy, they think they have achieved because they are being cheered in Western countries. They think it's very nice to come and report about your country negatively. This is the issue. That is the question we should be asking ourselves. The question of closing or not closing depends on the circumstance. You have to weigh between national interest and also the individual interests of media houses. The national interest at any given time will be weighed. And if it's necessary to close a media house so that you can serve the nation, of course you do it. You know that media played a critical role in 2007, 2008 post-election violence, and that some media houses were indicted for the role they played. We are not going to wait until they are indicted. We have to take precautionary measures to ensure that we protect the country. And that is important, that we do so. Unfortunately, I don't want to discuss about Justice Mwita, because when the chips are down, when the courts in Kikuyu were banned, a court order is not there to save the courts. When 2007 and 2008 violence happened, nobody looked for the Chief Justice that you swore in the president. It is the people who held offices like mine who are held responsible. So it's my duty first to take care of my country. It is easy. I can suffer a court order. I can pay for a court order or so forth, but I cannot pay for people's lives when they die. And I cannot return back the nation when it becomes a pariah state taken over by hooligans and gangs. So I would rather appear before a judge in a still working country and explain why I made a particular decision than to doubt myself and say, I cannot make this decision, and then tomorrow there is no country. There is even no judge to explain to. Because when this country burns, Justice Mwita and myself will all be the same. We'll probably be meeting in border between Kenya and other countries looking to be refugees. And I don't want that situation. I want first to protect the country, then the judge can pontificate with very beautiful statements when there is a peaceful nation. The other issue is the question of how many police officers were injured. No, first of all, for people who lost their loved ones, let me say this. It does not matter. It does not matter the circumstance that anyone loses a relative. Even if your relative was a robber. Even painful. All families that lost their loved ones yesterday, it does not matter if the investigation will show that some of them were trying to get into police armory. They wanted to to their families, and we want to say that we feel your pain. It's painful where persons were innocent, to ensure that necessary investigations are done and justice is served in every situation. How many police officers were injured? There are 300 police officers who were injured, and about 100 civilians. So total of 400 people were injured. And it is true that from yesterday's protest, there is a particular pattern, and again, in particular constituencies, where police stations are being targeted. And I suspect the banning of police stations was supposed to help the coup plotters make a statement that there is no country and that there is no authority. So that is why you see they want the guns and they want police uniform. and they want to show that the uniform is degraded so that there is no authority in the country. That is the entire mission of what happened yesterday. And therefore, as I said, we will take firm action to ensure that the nation is in safe hands. And I think with all those many remarks, unless IG, you just want to say one word. Yeah, just say one word. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Waziri. Maybe let me start by saying that I also join my Waziri in condoling with the families that lost their loved ones yesterday, during yesterday's fracas. And number two, I want to say that we appreciate our brave police officers who did a sterling job yesterday by ensuring our country remained secure, despite the many challenges that were there. I also want to wish them a quick recovery. There are over 300 police officers who are also injured, who got injuries yesterday, life-threatening injuries. I want to wish them well, and also state very, very clearly that we stand with them, we support them, and we appreciate the work that the men and women in uniform do. And finally, to the criminals who are involved in causing mayhem to our country, we are coming for you, and you must have your day in the court so that you can be able to answer to your criminal activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Asanteni sana. Awesome.